This is Volume with Femidi Live. Thank you once again for joining in. We're glad that you subscribed and a lot of you are watching our content. We're excited that you're doing so. As always, we like to engage on issues around Nigeria. And this time, it's about foreign direct investment, tourism, and quite a number of subjects that you would find of interest. And yes, the big question is why some people are leaving the country. Is also of interest that there is a strong messaging from the president and a few organizations across the country who are poised to get people back into the country meaningfully to invest in the country. My guest today is Chidinma Nwankwo. She is the MD of Motherland Africa and also the co-founder of the same organization. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. Thanks for asking. Many people don't ask me how I'm doing. They just keep looking at my face and maybe I'm going to ask something very spurious from the beginning.
I mean, I'm on the edge, so let's see.
Okay, let's take the edge of it. I
Okay.
mean, when we think about the country Nigeria, we're at a critical time where 60% of our population, right, are young people. And the biggest mindset is how to get out of the country. But Motherland Africa seems to be positioned to saying to people, come back into the country. Tell us about Motherland Africa.
Okay, so Motherland Africa is all around creating better bridges between the diaspora and the country. So, as somebody who lived abroad, I was born and raised in the States. I am one of those people who have come back because I see what the country has to offer. I see the opportunities here. So, for someone like me who came a couple years ago and who's found their way, we're just trying to help more diaspora people find their way when they come here, how to ease that journey in the process. And Motherland definitely tackles like infrastructural things around tourism. So, what are the people's experience when they land here? What are the questions that people have? How can you have them come here and want to stay here? Because for me, it took a long time for me to get acclimated here, just because, the different things that come with living and being in Nigeria. So for someone who's a tourist, they don't have months to get settled. So we're trying to tackle those things. And with Motherland Africa, we partnered with the Minister of Tourism on this initiative. So it's all just around building better bridges from, like I said, tourism infrastructure at the airport, um, you know, fe- um, investing, and we have different models and ways to do that. So I'm sure we'll dive deeper
Oh,
into that.
yes. From what you're saying, there's a system that can help this to grow in its right. But let me start with you as a subject.
Okay.
You talked about you coming back to the country,
Yeah.
uh, realizing some few things, some opportunities, and so many other things. What have you seen? What is it that you saw that people did not see or possibly are still seeing?
Right. For me, I guess my journey started. I've come back twice. So I came, I left, and then I came back. So my first journey back was after I graduated from university. And around that time, it was all around my university class. I went to Howard University. My university class was all around emerging markets and the potential around it. So, what's going to happen in Nigeria and kind of how Nigeria was on the same kind of economic brink as China. This was over 10 years ago. And when I came here, I was like, okay, there are a lot of potential because, like you said, we have people. We have people as the catalyst that can move an economy. And like, unlike other nations, I still think we're trying to figure that out. So I just saw an opportunity in our people. We're hardworking. We have zeal. We're creative, tenacious. So over the years, as I've come back for tourism and visiting, I kept working with people, and that was what made me feel like, okay, if you can mobilize people, you can give them something to do, you can, you know give them resources. I think what I see is mostly gaps in resources. If you can give them resources, then you can have a thriving economy. And people from the diaspora like myself, when you see the power of people in the States, then you're like, okay, how can I kind of mobilize and do that here?
Okay, that's an amazing reason why anybody would come back. I mean, you tried it twice. That's to tell you that it's not, something one would do without proper planning.
Yeah.
But with your experience, there are thousands of Nigerians across countries in this world that have left, but are thinking of ways to come back. How does Motherland Africa explain to them how they can come back, for example, to Nigeria? Having gained from your experience, how does that opportunity come in? Because there are people who want to come in as individuals, possibly also as organizations, but as individual, I mean, what would you say to somebody thinking of why they should come back even now?
Absolutely. I think from my experience, why I had to come back, I went and came back twice was because there was no real infrastructure or roadmap to answer the questions that I had. I was interested in getting into business. I was looking to network, and I just didn't find those places and platforms. So with Motherland Africa, what we're looking to do is this December to kind of address the connection and create a space for people in the diaspora and people who live here to be able to connect. So our festival, Motherland 2025, is seeking to help with that. So whether you tend to see a lot of festivals just focus on entertainment, but this is like more immersive. So whether you're interested in healthcare, you're interested in business, entrepreneurship, agriculture, you can come to the pavilion, see businesses that are mobilizing and doing things, see activations, understand the ecosystem better, and potentially meet your next business partner or even investor. And I think that those are the things that people in the diaspora are looking for, because during December, all you've seen is entertainment, partying. But we have conferences that happen all around the year. But if I live in the States, I can't go to another conference that happens in February or March. So we want to create an immersive experience and plug in and create a space for people to learn these things. That way, you don't have to come back twice. You can just come once, get the information you need, and then that will kind of start your journey for seeing the potential home.
Let's explore the collaboration with the minister. I do know the Minister of Interior, Tunji Ojo, talked about his visa policy that is now very much open to allow more people come in. The process is more significant. How does that help Motherland Africa, especially with the system you're trying to create? And also the culture minister talked about this is exciting, this is the way forward for our the arena she runs as well.
Yeah, I think friendly visa policy makes it easier for people to come. I think that's simple and straightforward. If people can go online, apply for their visa, get their visa within 24 to 48 hours, then it kind of eases the burden when typically maybe in systems you've seen it take weeks or longer periods. This kind of removes that stress, and that will now like mobilize us to be how we see other countries have visa policies, that someone decides they want to travel the same week, they can come. So I think those policies are great, and they help our initiative because we want to make, like I said, the process from the moment you decide you want to come to Nigeria to the moment you land, your experience and going home, for it to be as seamless as possible.
Previous administrations struggled to market Nigeria. How is Nigeria marketable even now?
I think we're seeing it already, right? We're seeing boost in tourism. Every year, more people are coming, and I think our creative industry is really pushing that. Entertainment is one of our biggest exports right now, with our artists being seen all over the world. So people have always known Nigeria, right? Most Black people are of African descent are actually traced to Nigeria. So, and there's no way you can ignore someone who is Nigerian. We come up, we take space, and all over the world. So now that we're seeing entertainment and Afrobeats kind of circulate and be around everywhere, now with more friendly visa policies, how you mentioned, and just also social media has helped, you're seeing more people take an interest. And I think that will just continue to grow.
I'm worried about some of the systems, or should I say, things that affect the growth of very good initiative in Nigeria. For example, the issue of security. People wonder, week in, week out, you see some embassies in Nigeria issue security statements to their various diplomats and staff here in the country. And Nigeria, coincidentally, on some very popular platforms, security platforms, there are security alerts about all of that that come in. And you have a festival planned for December. And I'm thinking, how do you deal with some of these ideas of somebody saying, oh, well, I heard Nigeria, Lagos is this, they'll steal you and tell you to pay. I mean, there are all kinds of demarketable language as well that is outside the country. How does one deal with that? And how does one go around that, especially for someone planning a festival, maybe up to 1 million people? Or how many people do you estimate to be at your festival?
We are believing tens of thousands of people will come.
Okay. So great. So how do you deal with some of those nuances?
Yeah, I think A lot of it is noise, right? So
Not real?
no, it's real, but there's noise and then there's static. So there's things that are true and then there's things that are amplified. So are there security issues or things that we, are concerned about? Sure. But that is not different from any other nation that has a large population and is densely populated. So when it comes to addressing those type of security concerns, I think information is important. Working strategically with security protocol and just the states that we're going to be hosting in, just to make sure we do have the infrastructure. Last December there were less counts of safety issues and more people felt safer than ever. I tell people all the time, when you hear stories, they're just stories, because for someone like me, I've been here for years and I've never had an issue. But I'm not on social media tweeting Nigeria is the safest place ever. But other people who, just may have had an interesting experience or have heard say, they're saying those things. And you see a lot of things perpetuated sometimes by older generations. Before I moved to Nigeria, my aunts and uncles were like, "You're going to get kidnapped," all this stuff. And they're putting fear in me. And these are people who haven't come home in 20 years. So the Nigeria maybe that they left versus the Nigeria we're living in sometimes can look differently.
Can look differently. And talking about people who have stayed abroad for a while, you have stayed abroad maybe possibly a good part of your life.
Absolutely.
Do you speak any Nigerian language fluently?
Fluently, no, but I understand. I'm Igbo. So from growing up, language and culture were really important. So I actually took Igbo like classes
Oh,
growing
you
up.
took Igbo classes?
Yes, and I had a grandma who refused to speak English, so I, by fire by force, learned how to understand. So if you start talking to me, can I reply to you? Maybe in some ways, but it's not going to be as smooth. But I'm trying and practicing it.
Which, I mean, I think about that and think about the number of people, because language is a major thing of tourism. In Nigeria, we have over 600 languages.
Yeah.
And guess what? We're even struggling with some of the people in Nigeria, with those of us in Nigeria. Some people, I mean, they send their kids to school, they speak English all day long, they can't speak local languages. Do you think Motherland Africa can help revive that local language, mother tongue, if I would say? Because I would struggle even pronouncing some words the British way. I still end up pronouncing the Nigerian way, and even have a strong mother tongue in some sense. So what do you make of local language as part of your initiative in getting things done?
I think it's important. I think that's part of the culture aspect and the heritage aspect. And those are things, again, with our experience, we want to help people get access to these things, right? So I've wanted I've talked about wanting to learn Yoruba. So I'm on like a quest to find a Yoruba tutor. So other people in the States also are looking for these type of things. And there's also tech platforms that are allowing people to learn and know their language. So I think everything is about information and access. And little things we do on our social and our platform is we do word of the day, and we kind of show, what keywords mean in the three different languages, Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa. So those are just small ways we're trying to spread more awareness around, our local languages. But I think, again, everything comes down to access and resources. So
The monarchs, the kings, the royal fathers, the royal mothers. Let me be sensitive. The royal fathers, royal mothers. A lot of them really are buying into the idea of Motherland Africa. I saw recently when the Oni of Ife received your co-founder as well, and talked about some of the initiative and the ideas of what they were trying to do. How's that journey been? Because a lot of people say you can't actually sell the culture of a country without speaking to some of these kings, some of these monarchs, and getting their own perspective into what you're trying to build. What feedback have they brought on board for Motherland Africa to say, oh, integrate this as part of your system?
yeah, I think on our visits, they've been so profound, right? One, with them, kind of seeing how positively they receive it, and also for us, right? You don't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. So, kind of getting the journey back to talking to the Oni of Ife, learning more about Yoruba culture, the history, those kind of give life to what we're trying to do. And I think the biggest message we're getting from them is people in the diaspora need to come home, not forever, right? Not every, but right, we do great work abroad, but they need to come home and have like a sense of ownership of themselves and their culture. And what we're noticing is when we're talking to them, so much of your identity comes from your culture, comes from your heritage, comes from your forefathers. We learned about the Woman King and all of these stories that I wasn't privy to. But when I see and hear those stories, I see parts of myself, I see parts of women or men that I know. So the more you know, the more confident you feel. And I think those will just help with our identity and continuing to pass it on for further generations.
Motherland Africa, you guys have a campaign running at the moment, I think, on one of your social media handles. That should be at Motherland Africa.
No, it's See Motherland.
Oh, See Motherland.
Yes, SEE
Okay.
Motherland.
I see it leans towards the creative economy, asking people to send in photos and videos. How's that campaign going and how have people responded? Have you been wowed by what you see?
Absolutely. As somebody who hasn't been able to visit all of the states and see all of the tourism sites, what we're seeing with the competition is people are showing us what Nigeria looks like through their lens. And that was kind of the call to action to the world and especially to those who are here. So we wanted to see tourism sites. We wanted to see what home looks like and feels like. And we're getting that, whether it's like your favorite tourism site, someone is visiting Zuma Rock, or just local visits to a marketplace. I'm getting a feel of everybody's day to day life and how it looks different from one person to one another. And as the competition continues to go, we've gotten hundreds of submissions, and we plan to only continue to get more because it's picking up. We're just seeing how creative people are as well. Like you said, the creative economy is so important, and the more you give people a platform, the more they share their stories. Because if you post and your friend sees it, your friend will also probably post. So it's just kind of a ripple down effect, and we hope it continues not just throughout the competition, but throughout the journey of Motherland, that people continue to show us what it looks like through their eyes.
The president seems to like the idea because on his May 29th speech, I'd read a part of it where he talked about Motherland Africa. He talked about, what it means for foreign direct investment. Help somebody who's looking at, oh, I just need visa to come down and the likes of that. Help paint a picture of how that helps the foreign direct investment of the country. And, one way or the other to understand how much money could possibly come at certain period if there's any projections you already have made. What does that mean?
Yeah, so last year we saw hundreds of thousands of people come in just during December period. So what it looks like for foreign direct investment is every person that comes, they spend around $2,000, right?
$2,000.
$2,000 from their accommodation to their food to their entertainment. So if you have, let's say, 1 million people do that across just a December period, the trickle down effect is there when it comes to the economy. And then with Motherland, what we're trying to do, like I mentioned, is create a platform for them to come. So you come, you visit, you come to the festival grounds, you experience, you come to the marketplace, you see a brand that you like, you purchase, you patronize them. This is probably an opportunity you may not have gotten prior to that. You now meet a realtor in our infrastructure and real estate area. You now are seeing properties that you like. Okay, now you want to start potentially investing, get on a payment plan. These are things that people typically wouldn't have been able to do within that small, maybe 1 to 2 weeks that they're here. But now within the Motherland Zone, you're in the pavilions, you're now getting an opportunity to purchase directly from brands. You're now getting an opportunity to invest in companies. So now we're going to see probably a potential that margin go from 2,000 to something that we can only hope will be substantial.
And I presume also that the festival will give young entrepreneurs the opportunity to showcase what
Absolutely.
they have and maybe even scale their business.
Absolutely.
Are you looking at bringing investors to Nigeria to meet some of these young entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. They already come during December, right? So it's what happens in December is a lot of people kind of shut down when it comes to work. And you have people who are foreign investors and they actually want to know what the next pay stack is. They want to know what the next piggy vest is. But how do they access these founders? There's, again, like I said, there's no tech conference, there's none of these grand infrastructural summits. So they're missing, again, opportunity. We're missing the opportunity for these people to actually meet and connect. So if I'm a foreign investor and I come from the States and you have a budding agriculture startup and what you probably need maybe $20,000 in investment to kind of get you to your MVP or to get you to your next stage, some people would be happy to make that deal, and kind of grow from there. And like, what's great about people who live in the diaspora and people who live here, we have a lot of knowledge sharing opportunity. There are things that we know here locally that they may not know, and then vice versa. So knowledge sharing, as well as direct investment, is really important.
I want to ask you a political inclined question because
Okay.
Nigerians have never really been shy
Mhm.
when it comes to creating very interesting stuff from Make Nigeria Great Again, I mean, to endless ones from various ministers, like Mohammed. Even during the military era, there were quite a number of initiatives. How do we, for example, and I use the word we because I'm really interested in Motherland Africa and what it will do for the Nigerian young person. How do we, peradventure, understand how politics and political environment will not take this over in such a way that we lose the depth of what we're trying to pass on in terms of communicate what Nigeria has become or will become.
So your core of your question is, how do we keep the essence of Motherland?
Yes.
Okay, I think we'll keep the essence of Motherland because Motherland will always be people and community focused. So at the core of it, we will always look to champion our people's voices, hear what our community wants, and grow from there. I think having working amongst the private sector and the government will always be strategic because you need the government to kind of push some things infrastructurally, right? We can't talk about visas, we can't talk about coming into the country, we can't talk about even direct investment without support from the government. We don't hold those policies. And then you need the private sector. If you want to talk about banking, you want to talk about telecoms. So Motherland is seeking to build an ecosystem where everyone can have a seat at the table. So I think that will be the way we continue to bridge that.
All right. Well, from now to December is a lot of ground to cover.
Yes.
How is that going as we start to round off? How is that going?
It's going well. I think right now we're at a place where Motherland is an open platform. So we are looking and working with sponsors, partners to kind of create this vision. Like I said, we need the private sector, right? We want to showcase all that Nigeria has to offer, like from beauty to fashion to these tech startups to these banking organizations. So that's what we're doing. We're building those partnerships and also working with pre-existing people who, do events already throughout the year and wanting to showcase and highlight them. So right now we're in deep planning mode and we're excited to execute and kind of show the world what Motherland has to offer.
All right. I'll allow you do the honors of the social media platforms where people can connect with you going forward. So feel free to share those details.
Okay, so follow us at See Motherland, SEEMOTHERLAND, land, on all platforms. So we're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Meta, and yeah, we're always looking to engage and share more stories.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chidinma Nwankwo. She is the co-founder and MD of Motherland Africa. It's been exciting talking to you. Quite a number of things we learned from your experience coming back. We do hope people undertake it as an experience, a staying experience, if I would stay.
Absolutely.
All right. And of course, get the best of it. Stay with us right here. And that's Volume with FMD Live. Remember to leave your comment. You agree, disagree? I'll be so excited to share what you think with Chidinma and, of course, with the team she works with, especially on issues of tourism as we have them in the country. Thank you so much. Stay close. We have more coming your way soon.